Welcome to our latest edition of 5 Insightful Minutes. I'm Chris Walton.
And I'm Ann Mazinga.
And today we are going to put one of the senior directors from the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Dave Schneidman, in the hot seat for the next 5 minutes as we discuss A&M's latest white paper on revenue margin management for CPGs.
All right, Dave, break it down for us. What do you really mean by revenue margin management, or RMM? What is it and why is it important?
RMM, revenue margin management, is super important for any company as you were trying to grow your portfolio, but also your margin in a very methodical approach. Historically, it's been called revenue growth management, but it's more than just revenue. It's also margin. You have to unlock margin to be successful in today's environment. And why is it important? Well, I'm going to talk about that scary word called inflation. Pricing is more important than ever, and consumers are becoming more financially conscious and savvy. And so having the right pricing structure is super important to be successful. We have SKU proliferation. So many brands are just throwing the answer by putting more and more products out there, new line extensions, new sub-brands, new SKUs. There's a level of complexity that you need to manage more than ever right now, and it's very difficult. And lastly, increased competition. The barriers to entry to launch a brand is pretty low. And so you have to make sure you have the right product with the right retailer, with the right sizing, at the right pricing to really ensure that you are giving the consumer what he or she wants.
So Dave, to that point, the jaded retail veteran in me is saying that RGM, RMM, whatever you want to call it, is really just a fancy way of saying a new pricing strategy, but it sounds like there's more to it. So how does A&M CRG think about revenue management going forward?
Yeah, the way we look at it, CRG, is there's 5 main levers to build out this holistic plan. The first one is portfolio mix and product assortment. Do you have the right product assortment for your brand proposition and what the consumer is looking for? Number 2 is pricing structure. Do you have that right pricing structure of good, better, best? So you start with that opening price point and you work your way up to premium and across the different sub-brands. Third is the price pack architecture, having the right pack size at the right retailer based on what the consumer wants is super important to drive velocity. Promotions. Do you have the right cadence of promotions, whether it's high-low or everyday promotions? Having something that drives penetration and incremental penetration, super important. And last but certainly not least is trade spend. How are you building out the appropriate merchandising approach and strategy with your key retailers?
Dave, what are some of those blind spots then that CPGs have when they're kind of focused on the cost inflation and pricing?
Yeah, over the last 18, 24 months, there's been huge price increases, but they've been quite arbitrary and just kind of sprinkled across the whole portfolio, as in, we're going to do a 50-cent increase on all products, but it's not methodical or intentional by what the price increase should be by line extension, sub-brand, brands, and portfolios. So there's a huge opportunity to actually have something that is a lot more granular and I would say scientific to ensure you have the right increases in price. And then with that, most of these brands and companies are looking at pricing and those price increases only from their own aspect of the company. But there really is this aspect of the consumer and customer. And so there's this willingness to pay that the consumer will take. And so what is that price and what is that increase? And are you looking at that? And then ultimately from a customer aspect, customer also has increase in costs. And so making sure that they're giving the right margins that they need to be successful as well is super important. So having this holistic approach around the 3 C's with inflation is something that we're seeing that has been a big blind spot with some clients.
All right, Dave, let's get you out of here on this because everything you just said sounds extremely complicated when you get right down to it. So my question is, are CPGs currently set up and structured to work through these kinds of programs?
No, they have elements to be successful, but ultimately they're not really set up for success at the moment based on their current operating model. And what I mean by operating model is when we look at it across your talent and your people, you know, the processes within the organization, and then the technology to unlock the work that needs to be done. Ultimately, most companies fall short with one, if not two. And so, you know, oftentimes they have the right team, but they don't have the right cross-functional processes to actually get the work done. And then there's a lack of technology or data to unlock what's needed to build out our RMM. So there's a lack of foundation needed to build, design, you know, ultimately execute and continue to sustainably grow the RMM process.
That was great, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks.